All right, guys, we have Rebecca Yuengling here with us. She attends every school board meeting since the beginning of the school year with me, as far as I know. We're going to be talking about how Kurt Browning stated that there is no data sharing within the EOS, or Equal Opportunity Schools, but Rebecca has proof that that is not true. So go ahead, Rebecca.
Yes, at the last school board meeting, there was another contract going to Equal Opportunity Schools again, and Ms. Hilton had downplayed it that it's only $200 something thousand dollars out of the 1.1 million, I think, in that 10.18 request. So the board is well aware, because they have been copied in the emails that I have sent. In December, my daughter was a ninth grader at Cypress Creek High School, and in her student account, she was given a series of questions. And she said she was uncomfortable answering the questions, so she came home and advised me. I searched her student account and pulled up the questions. These questions were directly through Equal Opportunity Schools. I had heard a little bit about them, but didn't do any deep dives or any real research into it. Some of the questions asked, this is for students in ninth grade to go to AP or IB classes. If anybody's not familiar, a quick Google will tell you Equal Opportunity Schools is partnered with Chan Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, George Soros. I mean, the list goes on. They're all together. They all take our kids' data. So in her account, it's directly through. I know you probably can't see this, but I printed out part of it. It says Equal Opportunity Schools, Qualitrix.com. So it's going directly from their student accounts into Equal Opportunity Schools. The school district is not a middleman that I can see anywhere if it goes directly to Equal Opportunity Schools. So some of the questions to go to AP, IB classes are, I refuse to do things that are bad for me, even if they are fun. Children have a series of questions. Not at all like me, a little like me, somewhat like me, mostly like me, very much like me. They also, in this paper, the survey, said that just select the response that best fits you. There isn't a right or wrong answer, just your honest reflection. Well, there is a right and wrong answer, and we know this. So another question, pleasure and fun sometimes keep me from getting work done. Same series of questions. I do things that feel good in the moment, but regret later on. I have a hard time breaking bad habits. People would say that I have very strong self-control. I say inappropriate things. I'm good at resisting temptation. These are not, I understand why she was uncomfortable. So I advised her not to answer these questions. And, back in the day, we had guidance counselors that would sit down with students and decide which would be best for them looking at their grades.
Yeah.
So instead of guidance counselors, we now have this through these companies. So I asked the school district how this got put in my child's account. I asked the principal, Karen Hetzler-Nettles, and she passed it on to Monica Ives, who's the assistant superintendent for high schools. Monica Ives had then sent me to somebody else from the district, and it's the bounce around. Which I understand the principal didn't have say in this. This was something done for the district that the board voted on. So I get that being bounced around. So I asked for a copy of the contract with Equal Opportunity School. I got it. This is not available on the website. You have to public information request this and wait to receive this. So in this contract with the school, it started September 1st, 2021. I'll have to send it so we can load this onto the website for you to look at yourself. Again, I'm just going to read. The superintendent said we're not data sharing. And I just want to make this, he completely contradicts with what the contract says, which his staff.
They're good at that.
Put through.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm just going to call the gaslighting as it is. I think the parents and the community members, they have the right to know what's truly happening in our schools. Equal Opportunity Schools, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, is pretty much they're looking to put students of color into AP IB classes. That's their sole purpose.
Mhm.
It's to put more kids of color, as they say, into these classes. So if your student is not African American or not Latino, they are just a statistic. I don't see where they help them. I just don't see it. So when I look at their contract dated September 1st of last year, 2021, they have with certain high schools to do a custom partnership fall survey and student insight cards. I do want to touch a little bit on student insight cards, and I will put those on the website. A student insight card is a picture of the student
Mhm.
that they take from their photo ID that the students get in the beginning of the year. And Equal Opportunity Schools puts that on a card with information about the student. It puts what their needs are, what they feel that they need more help with. And this information, it goes to Equal Opportunity Schools and it's shared with third parties.
Mhm.
So third parties, they didn't name who the third parties were.
No, they didn't.
So what does that tell us? Who are we sharing this with?
Oh. Well, if
Um,
it's a Chan Zuckerberg initiative and Bill Gates initiative, then I would like to know.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But according to the contract, we don't get this information to know. So on page, at another time, we'll have to get into FERPA and People Privacy Rights Act.
Mhm.
And for children under age under 13, it's COPA laws. We do have groups working with the Federal Trade Commission to kind of stop this illegal questioning, data sharing. But I mean, it's the federal government, so we work on it. This contract was signed June 29, 2021. The president, he was the interim president of Equal Opportunity Schools. His name is Sasha Rabkin, Rabkin. Just do a Google search on him.
Mhm.
See what you come up with. This information's all being shared with him, and anybody to look it up and actually see. So on page 10 of the contract, it's Exhibit A. It says Action for Equity Phase 3, Extended Equity. And it goes into that they're going to get the student survey, and staff recommendations, student insight cards. Equal Opportunity Schools will provide schools with student insight cards for all 10th and 11th grade students on the outreach lists. Student insight cards are student level profiles that visually provide key insights into student interest, motivation, academic performance assessments, barriers, and trusted adults. So who's a trusted adult for your child? I mean, shouldn't the parents be a trusted adults? I mean,
Yeah.
do they put I don't know. It has outreach lists. On page 11, it says exactly what they're doing to share the data. Now, where me and the superintendent completely disagree on,
Mhm.
because I guess I read contracts differently than he does, or maybe he didn't read the contract.
I don't think he cares, to be honest.
Yeah. Do you think so? You don't think he read the contract?
No.
I mean, he might not have. I mean, maybe that would be a defense. I don't think he does. I don't even know if he reads the true complaints. I think he does read the stuff that comes in for the lawsuits. We've paid Alfonso's firm quite a bit of money
Mhm.
to defend his poor recommendations to our board and superintendent. It's cost taxpayers a lot of money. I can safely say millions, because we've had to pay out, we've paid his fees. So I think it's a profession where you can give bad advice and make more money because you gave bad advice. So we're hopeful that maybe we can get a new board in next year that will vote for a different representation than Alfonso. But on page 7 of the contract, and here's where I'm gonna be in the superintendent. I mean, I'm factual. I'm not just saying that they're data sharing. It's what the contract says. And I'm going to read just this small paragraph. It says, page 7, data sharing for ongoing study and instructional improvement. for a period commencing on the effective date, which was June or July of 2021, lasting through 26-27 academic school year. The district will, on a regular basis, if requested, provide equal opportunity schools with data files, current and historic, containing the information contained in Exhibit C for all students who are in any high school listed on the cost and payment sections of this, and any other active agreement between the collaborators and data sets. Well, what is that?
It sounds to me like they're requesting student data.
And then let's go to D. And here it says equal opportunity schools may also share certain information, including personally identifiable information with third-party service providers and partners in order to fulfill its obligations under this agreement.
Okay.
And another part that kind of, it's right under there, it says upon consent of the district, not the parents, not the taxpayers, consent of the district. Equal opportunity schools may share certain confidential information with a partner for educational purposes, such as a professor at a U.S. university conducting research and subject to such professor being bound by confidentiality obligations to equal opportunity schools, not to the parents, not to the students, but to equal opportunity schools. No less strict than those set forth herein. From time to time, EOS and the district may mutually agree in writing to enter into a collaboration with a third party.
Mm-hmm.
Again, where's the parent? Where's the community? We don't even know. So when they make these agreements, when do we know? Do we know? I have never been notified. I've yet to hear somebody that said that they have. Such collaboration may involve the sharing of the data sets or a subject thereof with such third party.
Mm-hmm.
But Browning says that they don't data share.
And they claim that it's identifiable, right? Correct?
Correct.
It states there, yet. I don't remember if it was Browning or if it was Mrs. Kuhn that stated that there's no identifiable information being shared if there is any data sharing. So that's another lie.
So to me, I'm very, I would like to call the superintendent Browning out, and I would like him to respond to us, because that school, the two of the schools on that list, my children go to. So and the other question came up, was interesting. I had asked somebody in administration from the school, I won't say their name, how we know people that opt out, parents have opted out of data sharing with their children.
Mm-hmm.
How we know that their information did not get shared, because I don't see in this contract where it's exempt when it says all data. That to me, so I asked this administrator and they weren't sure. I mean, they were honest with me. We do have great people in the district. It's just the leadership is just, it's, I think we're all disheartened with the direction this district has been going in over the last 10 years. And we see the social emotional learning really impacting the students to such an extent. I brought up the Baker Acts. I put this out to some of my national groups, and they feel the same. They think that this is absolutely incredulous that we've had that many Baker Acts, 124, I think it was, since the start of the school year. Another concern that was brought up by these Baker Acts was, to me, most of them were male students. They were boys. As a mother of a son, I can see the frustration that the boys are having, and even his friends. I've had to intervene multiple times between fights and arguments these boys are having. They're not getting the help. They're not getting the support from school. And these young men are literally just so inside, just ready to explode. And they're so defensive. Their defensive then projects out as aggressive. And nobody's taking the time to sit down with these boys and say, hey, what's the problem? What can we work on? I have yet to see this happen unless adults come in, other adults not in the school system, which people don't always do. So this to me is a huge eye opener. And I think it's something the whole community should look at. I would hate to see my son or daughter take a survey like this and then be Baker acted. Yeah. By the way they answered a question, or to have this held over their head if they don't like something that the parent does, to use this to have students Baker acted, because we've heard from parents, they were not notified from the school. They just found out that their kids were Baker acted, and they couldn't see their kids for 3 days or a week.
It's terrible.
So when we ask these questions through Equal Opportunity Schools, it stays in their record, it's shared. And
It could be used against them too, right?
Right. And if you go to apply for a federal job, what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
These questions come up and a student says, yeah, I do have impulse problems. I do say inappropriate things. I guess I don't have self-control. I mean, what if the student's having a bad day and they just filled it out?
Yeah, it's terrible. Like, I know it makes you think with all these social emotional, projects that they're doing, going to out of state to go to the conscious discipline conference. Like, what are they doing? They've been doing this for years, supposedly, and yet everything is just going downhill as far as, kids, how they're acting out. Something's wrong.
Well, that's it. That's the problem. I mean, you've just said it. Years ago, we didn't have districts going out on these big conferences for social emotional learning. And I think we heard in the last meeting, the board members that did speak were pretty unanimous that they think social emotional learning is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And that should scare every parent in this district. We didn't have this type of training. Social emotional learning wasn't there 30 years ago. It was, but not to the level it's at. It came in little tiny pieces. So they didn't go to these conferences. They didn't go to these organizations. And part of going to these conferences is them picking up grants. So they're getting grants,
Mm-hmm.
grant money to give to, like we have the Schusterman Family Foundation. They gave a grant to the district that they can only use that money with TNTP, which is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And part of their contract, the superintendent had said that they needed help. Superintendent and staff needed help to work on their anti-racism. Well, if you're racist, I don't think you should be working with children and head of school. I mean, just step down and leave and let somebody who's not racist take over, because it says so in the contract. And we all know Superintendent Browning's statement when he was doing his debate with David LaRoche about students of color are not our brightest students.
Yeah, he stated, I'm not talking about your super bright students. I'm talking about your students of color. That's what he said.
I mean, how is he still in office? And then he was reelected after that. Either people really aren't paying attention or people just don't care that he's making comments like this and signing contracts like this. Let's just look at all the children as individuals, not as a group, not as an identity, but as an individual. And if we can have the guidance counselors, I guess they just call them counselors now,
Mm-hmm.
actually do their job and sit with the student and the parents. The parent can be on the phone. I understand parents work, and have the family involved. They don't want the families involved. When this stuff's put in your kids' accounts and you weren't told about it, and when I asked the school, depending on how the student answered the question, they would go down a different series in these questions. It would take them down different paths. And so when I asked the district to see them, I was told I could only come in on these 3 days for 45 minutes, and I could not take notes or pictures. I have that email. I can't wrap my head around. That was the assistant superintendent, Monica Ice, told me that. And I heard from another parent that it was because these questions are copyrighted. I mean, who's really looking out for the kids here? Is it just our board is fine with social emotional learning? Because they've said it. Megan Harding keeps doing a flip-flop on social emotional learning. It was good, then okay, I'm starting to see maybe it's bad. And then after her comments at the last meeting, wow, she totally flips back to social emotional learning is wonderful. And we just really want the kids to pass reading, writing, and math. We want them to apply themselves in these subjects so that they can go on and live productive lives. How learning about social emotional issues and social justice issues and
Yeah,
Um,
that's the thing they don't understand. It clearly states in the benchmarks that they're trying to train kids to be a certain way in society. Like, I don't like the sound of that. It sounds to me like you're trying to manipulate and mold kids to be the way you want them to be. And that is the job of a parent, not the school.
1,000%, and that is our battle right now, right? We're in a custody battle with our, with our children and the school districts, but the Constitution, we win. The
Mhm.
parents win. We are protecting our children's individual rights, not group rights. We
Mhm.
don't, mob mentality. We're protecting their individual rights and our rights as parents to teach our kids and instill our fundamental rights, and the schools are to remain neutral.
Mhm.
And they're just, I mean, Superintendent Browning has had, the criminal justice teacher teaches non-curriculum, non-approved curriculum, that religious groups are hate groups towards the LGBT community and that police racially profile. So I had brought these up in instructional review committees, and they, the CTE person, Dr. Brantley, who just left the district, um, aligned that police show implicit bias to best standards. I mean, are you kidding me? So you're telling all kids in criminal justice class, by the way, this criminal justice teacher was never a law enforcement officer.
Oh,
She
of
was a
course.
child protective um, investigator. And so she has taken stuff from teacher to teacher and put this non-approved curriculum into the students' worksheets. And I had asked to see these per Florida statute. It says that I can request to see these.
Mhm.
And I wanted to see them before my daughter saw them, because then the kids have group discussions. And again, the assistant superintendent of high school, Monica Eyes, it told me that that will not occur. This doesn't sound like a partnership to me. If we could just stay to the approved curriculum, that would be great. But Fran from the academic department had told me, it's actually reported in a Zoom meeting, instructional review committee, that they don't want the teachers censored.
What? They said that?
Yes.
Wow.
And I have the video of that. I'll get it to you. Maybe we can upload that on the website too, would be
Yeah.
great. And how they've put the teachers into giving them this freedom and liberty. And that's not okay, because we have teachers promoting, I'm Christian,
Mhm.
but I wouldn't overstep somebody else's bounds if I was a teacher by teaching Christian,
Mhm.
teaching the Bible in the class, because that would be upsetting to other parents. And what upsets me is these other teachers just, they want to be social justice warriors, and they want to teach our kids their
Their
own
yeah,
ideologies,
their
which
opinions.
don't
Enough.
align
Yeah.
with, we have more registered Republicans, independents, and Democrats. Democrats are last. So I would say, well, according to their voting polls, registered Republicans are the majority of the views of our county. But somehow we have a select group of teachers that are untouchable, and administrators that seem to be, well, they are. They say it out loud in their Twitter pages, that they are radical progressives, radical liberals, and they are against the, they say the don't say gay bill. They're going to say gay anyways, and their students can continue to come to them. I don't understand how these people are still employed by the districts. We got the teachers that do follow the rules and do what they're supposed to do. If they say something negative about one of those teachers, they are then demoted, transferred, attacked. This is backwards. And the way we can make this better, obviously, is it's an election year, and get people in who, talk. I encourage everybody to talk to every candidate and see their values and understand where they sit on social emotional learning.
Mhm.
And these types of contracts, because we didn't have these groups 30 years ago. And I think we came out fine. So we have all this COVID money, this ESSER funds, that it's billions of dollars nationally, and these special interest companies like Equal Opportunity Schools, they are hiring, because a lot of these COVID funds, people understand districts don't have to use this money for COVID. they can use it
on whatever.
pretty much. There's a few things they can't use it on. I was speaking to a few groups last night. There were some restrictions on a few things, but most they can use it for what they wish. So these companies know they're going to make a lot of money, and it's going to be a lot of data farming and data sharing. And I just want parents to know that your kids' information and yours, because it says it on the contract as well, your information is being shared with equal opportunity schools and third parties. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. I'm not 100% sure on the people that opted out of data, which there wasn't many, but I would like to see if they, I don't think they'll even send it to us, that they were opted out of this data, because according to the contract, it says all data.
Yeah.
They have to give it from those schools. And I mean, I know a parent in one of the schools decided to opt their child out, and I don't see where their child was excluded, but I would have to then do another public information request. And I'm not sure if they'd give it to me because of proprietary information, even though I'm supposed to have it. So I think we just need to really look at these contracts that the district is signing. And parents, I think before next school year, we need to get out a paper for parents to fill out, to not have their kids' data shared, to opt them out. This is one way to stop it. And to follow up, we have to make sure that they're not sharing our kids' data.
Yeah.
And this means historic, right? Historic data and current data. So we have to follow the verbiage of the contract as well. And who's going to be watching to make sure that they don't? I mean, this is what's important.
Yeah.
And I'd hate to see a child, a 14-year-old child having a bad day and filling out a survey or questionnaire because they're depressed that day or they're upset that day, and have that affect them for employment or for the rest of their lives. That can come up and affect them because it's shared. I don't know how Equal Opportunity Schools says in the contract that after it's over, they will destroy the data. Equal Opportunity Schools will destroy their data.
But what about the third parties?
Right.
Yeah.
And what's the stipulations on the third party sharing it with another party?
Exactly. So with the whole opt-out thing, did they send you guys a letter to opt out, or is that something that they had to find out for themselves?
Well, that's kind of, so when you register your child for school, you have to fill out an acknowledgement. You just click it. It's all online. You click an acknowledgement that you read through the FERPA and People Privacy Rights Act. You acknowledge that you read through it. So districts, this isn't just Pasco, this is national. A lot of our situations here, we are no different than pretty much any other state. We have the same Chicago, California, we have the same groups and organizations. It's just ours is more, it's hidden, it's not transparent. And once you start pulling back the curtain and seeing what they're really doing, it really gets you upset. And where other districts like Chicago, they're like, well, we did the girls plus bathroom and the boys plus bathroom, and they have the whole celebration video. But kudos to them, they're transparent about it, right?
Yeah.
Where our district, they tell students who feel that they're transgender that they can go into whatever bathroom they're comfortable with. There's no policy or procedure on this.
Yeah.
It's just, as again, Assistant Superintendent of High Schools, Monica Eyes, has said, it's just due to prevailing law.
And I've heard also that certain events take place in those bathrooms and nobody can do anything about it, because who are you to question someone's? It's terrible.
So boys and girls, boys are going in the girls' bathroom and vice versa.
And they're teenagers.
And they're having sex.
Yeah.
They're having sex.
Yeah.
And my daughter witnessed two students. It was during classes. She went to the bathroom. She went in the bathroom, and there's two students in the stall, having a male and female, having sex. And from what I heard from Monica Eyes was that adults can't be in the bathroom for privacy purposes.
Oh, how convenient.
And then another instance happened. My daughter wasn't in the bathroom, but her teacher called administration because she saw that two students were having sex in the bathroom. and called administration. So administration all went down there and stood outside the bathroom waiting for them to be done. I got a lot of questions. So we can't stop it. Nobody can go in there to stop it. What if the student's being raped?
Yeah, that's a good viable question.
What if we have an 18-year-old student and a 14-year-old student?
Yeah.
So we're not going to let staff go in, but it's okay that the boys in there because of prevailing law. Yeah, teenagers and hormones in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really,
it's a recipe for disaster.
It absolutely. I mean, it's not. I mean, yes, concerns of rape are huge, right? A hormonal teenager, and you have a young woman that could be going in the restroom. You can have an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old going into the bathroom. It happens. I mean, we looked at Loudoun County, and they're still having problems. I'm in contact with those parents as well. They had a rape in February. They had a special needs child raped. Maybe it was March. So it's still going on. It shouldn't be celebrated. If the student wants to identify as a different opposite sex, then they can go use a single stall bathroom. If they're not comfortable using the bathroom that they're born with, right? It's because of the superintendent's direction for the district is very progressive. And the board just keeps rubber stamp. I don't know how anybody, after seeing these contracts on the school board, can possibly say that they're conservative.
No, I can't either. It's ridiculous.
Can you think of one conservative thing, Michelle, since you've been coming to the school board meetings that the board has done? Can you?
No, not really. No, no.
I mean, was there one conservative training? Maybe I think they went to one, wasn't it? Wasn't it a church college or a religious college?
Yes, yes. But, I'm not quite sure what it was for, but they did go to a Christian university conference of some sort. But that's one out of what? How many?
And it's just never ending, right?
Yeah.
And that's where they picked up the Schusterman Family Foundation grant. That's where they pick up all these grants. And when I asked the board members about these grants, specifically the Schusterman Family Foundation, I asked them, I said, well, why do we have to use TNCP for community engagement? Bill and Melinda Gates Company, they are training the district on how to engage with the community. Do you think maybe that's part of the reason why they won't engage with the conservative-minded parents?
Yeah.
They just refuse. They refuse to engage with us. There's a group that came up a few months ago called, what is it, the Democratic Education, Education.
The Democratic Education Caucus.
Yes. So they came in, started coming to school board meetings. When would you say, Michelle? Was it January, February?
I'd say January. I'm not sure, but I've seen. I don't want to say her name, but I remember
her brown-haired, curly.
Yes, but I think I've seen her for quite some time. I don't know when they developed the educational caucus, but so I'd say about like January is when we started noticing that they were named something.
So then they came in, and a woman came in. I believe she said she was a teacher, right? At one of the school board meetings, and was upset. It was February, I think, because it was Black History Month, and she came in and felt that teachers couldn't really discuss the true history, and that they were censored, and she wanted the students of color to understand the history. And I don't know all of what's going in classes. Her concern very well could be valid. History is important so that it doesn't repeat itself.
Yes.
We need to learn the history in the proper way. So she came in, and the superintendent decided to meet with them right after.
Because it aligns with his agenda.
Right. So now we have the African American Task Force coming in, and went through some of that curriculum. Michelle, I think you did a little bit too.
Yeah.
And it does not align to state standards. We cannot, our recent legislation, we cannot put down our founders. Says so. We can't put down our founders. And most of it talks about how Jefferson was bad, a slave owner, and a a racist.
Mhm.
That's not allowed. So I believe, and what I surmise out of this is the district is now going to spend time. We're going to pay people to actually help this organization that's out of Tallahassee align to best standards. Because I
Mhm.
believe we have 3 people in our district's superintendents that are attorneys. I think Kevin
Yeah.
Shelby is, Vanessa Hilton, and there's one more, probably a few more.
Shibley is Miss Kuhn, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
So are we using our resources to now do this? All right, I'm just going to revert back to why cannot we just focus on our kids are not doing well in math. They're not doing well in reading. We
Yeah.
have this crazy grade curve. The minimum grade, if they don't do anything, is 50% or 59%. We're just kind of pushing the kids through for the numbers, and they're not learning anything.
No.
And, you know, if everything's running great and the kids are doing great and they're excelling, they're achieving, we're striving to teach them individually to push themselves and see what this individual student would be best at, not because of the color of their skin,
Mhm.
not because of their income status, but because they're capable. Or
Yeah.
encourage them, regardless of their background. That's the human thing to do.
Yes.